movement and the body's ability to communicate ideas beyond words is perhaps the highest form of expression. And dance as a cultural expression appears in just about every culture around the world. Dance comes from inside of us. It can be a social ritual, a process for healing, or a composition of complex creative ideas. How then can we be mindful of movement in our lives and appreciative of dance in its many culturally expressive forms? As Andy said, my name is Duane Cyrus, and I'm the director for the School of Dance. I come to you as someone with knowledge gained through embodied application. So what does that mean? It means that the text for my profession is actually the body I live in. With over 40 years of movement knowledge in my body that I now seek to give back to the world through education. So joining me today are Cassidy Chan and Ava Furukawa, both amazing dance majors in the School of Dance. And I've asked them to join me today to serve as a type of living PowerPoint. They will help demonstrate how ideas become movement. And with that in mind, I've asked each of them to introduce themselves to you using movement. Let's start with Cassidy.
Aloha, my name is Cassidy Chan.
And Ava.
Hi, my name is Ava Furukawa.
Thank you, dancers. It's nice to meet you. So today we will speak to you in words and movement about how movement itself is at the core of our lives and reflects the cultures or groups to which we belong. I'll also share a few tools with you that dance scholars like Ava and Cassidy use to explore the creation of new movement knowledge. And then finally, I'll pose some questions to you about what your choices, our choices for movement mean in our world today. So let's first delve into the place movement has in our lives. If we begin with space and time and recognize that movement for us is our bodies negotiating and surviving within the conditions of space and time. We need to move to survive. We push, we pull, we run, we breathe, and we embrace and express. Legendary modern dance choreographer Martha Graham is known to have said movement never lies. It is a barometer telling the state of the soul's weather to all who can read it. Now imagine a group of people who are telling the barometer of their society through movement that is shaped by their spatial circumstances. Large populations in small spaces. A coastal community, a community in a mountainous region may all have different ways of moving based on their spatial circumstance. When on the subway some years ago in Tokyo, I noticed that everyone on the crowded subway car took up a little bit of space with their body. No one seemed to bump into each other or intrude on another person's space. And I noticed the same thing on the crowded street above ground. It was as if the citizens of Tokyo in that tightly packed city recognized that they had a limited amount of space to use and they took up what they needed and nothing more. But then I think of the coast of California and Santa Monica Pier and skateboards and surfboards and people moving as expansively as the space around them. How we move can also be impacted by the condition of time. We can only move in the present moment, right? Not before and not after. But our memory, our history can also impact how we move, our blood memory. That term blood memory was coined by another legendary choreographer, Alvin Ailey. And he used that term to describe the memories that helped shape his dance choices, and his dance vision for creating classic works like Revelations. That movement history that we all have shapes how we move in the present. 300 years ago was a completely different time than today. Different fashion. We had slower ways of travel. Our relationship to the sun and how we might move safely about was impacted more directly by the sun. Ava and Cassidy are moving in ways that reflect their perspectives of their cultural heritage, their blood memory. Ava is looking at her Japanese cultural heritage, and Cassidy is looking at her heritage from China and Korea. Today, we hunch over cell phones, heads lowered, as we maneuver down the street, hopefully not bumping into each other, sending text to the person right next to us, and observing so much more of our lives in brief, contrived, digital performances. But live performative movement, dance, captures the barometer of a society. The movements and gestures have meaning and value assigned by us because of our belief in them and our practice and repetition of them over time. All right, challenge. Consider the social dances of your youth and how much they meant to you, how much they were a part of your identity. Ava and Cassidy are going to show us a few from their childhood. Okay. All right. And I remember, and this is dating myself, the hustle, anyone, and the running man. But in terms of those living PowerPoint slides, we lost that one. So, and think about devised performative styles like ballet and hip hop. Ava and Cassidy are going to show that. So Cassidy's got balletic movement. Ava is showing us hip hop. What's different about them? What is emphasized? How do the legs and the arms move? How does the torso communicate? And who gets to decide which movements have meaning? And how does one investigate the impact of movement as a cultural expression? So that brings me to my next point, which is the importance of creative inquiry and movement research. Dance makers use a range of tools to investigate meaning in movement. Alvin Ailey also said, as choreographers, we start with an empty space and we add a dancer or two and we tell them, carve this space. He also said, I love creating something where there was nothing before. And I'd also add that dance makers carve out of the space the how and the why of what makes movement resonate for an audience. And one tool that we use to investigate and find that resonance is improvisation. Improvisation, it takes us out of our normal temporal and spatial circumstances and immerses us in new circumstances to test our actions. I like to use this phrase that if necessity is the mother of invention, then improvisation is the midwife, the doula. Exploring movement through improvisation allows us to carve our ideas in the space with renewed purpose. So earlier, I gave Cassidy some prompts to improvise. She's making decisions in the moment around values of time and space. She has a floor pattern. She's using level changes and tempo changes. And she's also using movements that are broad and sweeping. That's nice. We should record that. That was pretty good. And now Ava, I've asked her to improvise in the moment using shapes that are closer to her body. That's stationary. She's using repetition, which is an aspect of time, and dynamic energies that are sharp and crisp. Thank you both. Thank you. So we looked at, in my first point, we looked at how a society moves based on its spatial and temporal circumstances. And now we just looked at movement invention and how we can use the manipulation of space and time toward creating interesting movement. But what about your own movement choices in your world at this time? And what is your plan for how you will continue to move as your body and the world around you changes? I ask myself this question constantly as I have gone in my life from a very physically active dancer to a less physically active and somewhat more stressed out director of dance. Our society today is more sedentary than ever in our social settings and in our job. Sedentary jobs have increased 83% since 1950, according to the American Heart Association. And according to Forbes, the average person spends more than half of their day sitting. So what does that mean? Being sedentary, and it's not just our jobs. Social media, cell phones, self-driving cars, and that mummifying experience of waiting for automated customer service to answer us. We have to meet these challenges in a different way. And then what does it mean as the pace of progress, the wonderful technological pace of progress, moves faster than our feet can follow? And then as we age, it may be harder and harder to continue to move. When what once moved gracefully now creaks and cracks. We are slow to run and faster to pause. It's our knees and for some our backs. We choose 401ks for the coming of age, but throw away health for an hourly wage. We send our children to dance schools as they grow, elders to care homes when they slow. But in between, do we recognize what the bodies know? All right, I'll keep working on that poem. So we looked at how movement can be impacted by conditions of space and time and how societies express their values. Memory is important. We've talked about memory and the idea that memory can not only be about the past, but perhaps also our hopes for the future. Martha Graham said, all that matters in this moment for movement is the one moment. Make that moment vital. Make it necessary. Do not let it slip away unnoticed or unused. I really appreciate that quote from Martha Graham, and I leave you with the idea that each of us has the ability to meet the necessities of life through how we move. We can improvise, we can create, we can be aware of the music of life. I will close by saying, let's make the movement in the dance of our lives worth living. Thank you, Cassidy. Thank you, Ava. And thank you.